Welcome to 2Cents FC. I'm your host, Amobi Okugo, back again with my guy, L. Each week, we'll be discussing topics from around the soccer world and giving you our unfiltered thoughts and opinions. This week, we're joined by Oakland Roots Founder and Oakland Soccer Club Technical Director, Benno Nagel, one of my good friends, someone that's always doing it the right way. I'm excited to have him on. We got a lot to talk about. This week, we'll be discussing the origin of Oakland Roots, building grassroots soccer, and foreign leagues grabbing young American talent. Benno, how you doing today?
Doing well. Happy to finally sit down and link up.
Yeah, it's been a while. We've been trying to get this to happen for the longest time. You know, L's from Oakland. He went to Bishop O'Dowd. We're not going to talk mess about them. I'm from Hayward, raised in Sacramento. So to have someone that's so synonymous with Oakland soccer, it's a pleasure to have you on, you know?
Man, I got to say Dragon Pride, dude, 2004.
For sure. Oh, you graduated from O'Dowd?
Yeah.
That's what's up. I'm 2002.
It's two against
so
one.
We were probably there at the same time.
Yeah. I was there. My senior year was like the first year they got turf on the field.
Okay.
And we played, so like, I'm trying to think guys you might know. Joe Paz. Joe Paz.
Remember, L wasn't into soccer back then, so.
Eric Meese, Jeff Moss, Matt Tuckner. They were all, because I skipped a grade. I skipped fourth grade, so I was born in 87. So I graduated in 04, but I would have really been like class of 2005.
Okay.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so he was probably on the way out when I was on the way out when you were coming in. So I probably don't know too many of the freshmen.
Senior year. Oh, what? That's what's
up.
Yeah, small world. It's small world.
For sure.
So, Benno, we ask this to every guest that comes on the show. When did you fall in love with soccer?
Man, when did I fall in love with soccer? So I went to Hillcrest Elementary School, and I started getting introduced to soccer just playing, at lunchtime, pickup. There was a kid that lived in my neighborhood. His dad was British, and so he kind of was a soccer guy, and we would hang out and stuff like that. So I was probably maybe 7, 8 years old when I kind of fell in love. It was hard because like back in the day, you didn't really have any opportunities to see the game.
Yeah.
And so I can think back to Fox Soccer Channel probably was like the first time you could really see soccer on the regular. So I got introduced to it at a young age. I would say I didn't really fall in love like with it to where I would like, die for soccer sort of thing. And so maybe I was 16, 17.
I respect that. So, you mentioned the British guy. Was there a certain team that he supported? I know, British, they always had their teams.
I can't remember. It was, I'm 33, so this is like 28 years ago. But he was always playing. He always had a ball.
Uh-huh.
Back in the day when you were like still riding your bike around and climbing trees and like not, there wasn't video games, there wasn't, the internet, all that stuff was like still kind of a newer thing. And so, that was kind of my first introduction. We're just hanging out with him. He always had a ball. So we play a little basketball, play a little football, play a little soccer. And I just kind of took to it that way. A couple of my buddies were joining a team. So that was kind of my sign up back when they had like the reversible jerseys,
They need to bring those back, low key.
They got to bring them back, man. You see an MLS kit come out next year, it's got to be like the reversible.
The reversible jersey. No, so talk about that. You mentioned, getting introduced to soccer through, friends, Hillcrest Elementary. But did you play for a club scene growing up? What led you up to what you're doing now?
Yeah. So I played Rockridge Soccer Club. I actually started in Montclair Soccer Club when I was like 8, and I played at Rockridge. They had a club, Bay Oaks, which is like the top. When they had like Class 1, Class 3, Class 4. So I played in Bay Oaks. The team in my age group that was like the best in the region was in Southern Alameda County. So I went and played with Satchel, I guess, SACYSL, Stars. So I played there and then went to college and kind of kept playing for another couple of years. Did the whole like NPSL thing for a few years after that. But I got my starts at kind of like the recreational level with like dads coaching, and it was definitely a different hype than when you look at youth soccer today, right? So I kind of wish I would have been born like 15 years later. But but no complaints. You know, just trying to put it forward for the next generation.
Nah, respect. Yeah, I tell my younger brother every time, like, yo, you are so spoiled. If I was coming up now, Lee. So you bring up a great point. You talk about, you know, helping the next generation, you know, putting it forward for the next generation. Talk about, you know, all the efforts that you're doing, Oakland Roots, you know, how you started it. I'd love to hear, you know, that context.
Yeah, it's a wild story. Like everyone kind of celebrates the success of Roots, or like, you know, as an entrepreneur. What I did kind of before that, I thought was harder, I guess, in that me and two of my best friends, you know, maybe 10 years ago, we were working in Oakland, coaching at Holy Names College, and then working in a youth club, San Ramon Soccer Club. And we were talking about, you know, getting to the highest level of the world and all the crazy dreams that young people have. And so we kind of hustled our way into an opportunity to move to Europe. So I went and took a job with FC Twente in Holland. And then at that time, one of my best friends, Ivan, got appointed to Dinamo Zagreb's academy as a director there. And so I came in there, spent the year in Dinamo's academy, came back actually and took a job with Rayo OKC in the NASL. And so it was kind of this, like, from coaching 8-year-olds in San Ramon and working at the college at Holy Name. So then being in professional level, we had like Samaras was in our team, Derek Boateng, Marvin Chavez, Robbie Finley, like a lot of guys working under Alan Marcina, who's now at San Antonio. That was kind of like the one in a million thing already. And so I came back. That project, unfortunately, was a one and done. And so I came back to Oakland and kind of had that realization of seeing Oakland having taken a lot of change. Like I was hanging down at the lake and they had folks doing like the slack line thing where they walk in between the trees and people were, you know, it was like different.
How do people do that, by the way?
It was crazy. And so I was like sitting there and I just had this moment. And you know how it is, like when you're in your coaching, you work in a crew, right? So one guy gets a gig, he gets like a big job, and then he can bring, you know, 4 people, 5 people. So I was just kind of waiting for the phone to ring, really, for the next thing. You know, I was potentially going to Saudi Arabia, a couple opportunities in Australia. And I love Oakland, like I'm a local guy. You know, I never really wanted to be living out of a suitcase forever. Like pro sports is really cool, but you're definitely bags packed every year. You don't really know where you're going to be. It's a different mentality, right? And so I appreciated that. Like some of the best environments I've ever been in are super, super far away from home. Some of the best memories I have are with folks that are halfway around the world. But when I was looking at Oakland and just kind of seeing all the changes that were happening, I was like, man, how can I miss this phase of Oakland? You know, and at that point it was like, okay, what can I do maybe locally here while I'm waiting for the next gig to kind of materialize? I had read about SF City when I was overseas in Holland. That was kind of when I first read about SF City. I had researched about Detroit City and Chattanooga. So I knew it was possible. And then it was really just an idea of like, okay, well, can I maybe put together a $50,000 budget and get an NPSL team? And in like 10 years, maybe be a pro team. And things kind of picked up from there.
So selfishly, I want to know this. So it costs $50,000 to start an NPSL team?
I think it's like less than that. I mean, like 15,000 to probably buy a license.
Okay.
But then if you're just like bare bones, they're lucky they have the Golden Gate Conference. So there's a lot of teams locally where you're not having to travel overnight. But yeah, I'd probably ballpark it like 50 grand on a shoestring budget to do a team like that.
Okay, interesting. Shout out Sac Gold, by the way, my boy Sac Gold NPSL team. So talk to us about, like, you know, when you first started, you wanted to, you know, stay close to Oakland. You know, you have a family there. You have your no pun intended, but your roots there. You didn't want to live out of a suitcase for your whole life, and you bring up a great point when it comes to athletes at the pro level, whether you're coaching, staff, player. You know, you don't want to move around every other year. But talk about like the mission and the goals that formed. I feel like a lot of people with what you created, that's what a lot of people gravitate towards. You know, the mission that you guys stand, the goals that you guys stand for, the community aspect. It's different from a lot of clubs. So, you know, talk about that from your standpoint.
Yeah. I mean, I guess when you're from Oakland or you're from the Bay, you just kind of feel really deeply rooted in the community that you're from, and just want to make sure that the way you live your life is respectful to the people that have been there before. Oakland's going through a lot of change right now, some good, some bad. And so I had an understanding of what was happening locally, and wanted to see a sports team that it could actually be a real vehicle for community improvement. And so, I had my background as a player and as a coach, so I kind of had a more of a selfish motivation to create a sports environment for players, because like you said earlier, we all wish we would have been born later and had more resource when we were coming up. So that was definitely a big part of it. Was just, I've been a youth coach where you're seeing kids that can't afford it, seeing really talented players that just don't have the right coaching or the right circumstance. And so that was a big part of the motivation, was just like creating a soccer environment that could be better than what I had and what my friends had. But then when I started thinking about Oakland and kind of where it's at right now, and I don't want to throw the word gentrification, but it's happening here.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to say, okay, well, if we've got teams that are leaving, maybe teams that haven't been as genuine as you would hope for them to be, maybe giving more lip service to like, we want to make it better here than actually what they do. I just felt that soccer could be a breath of fresh air. And I had seen by this point SF City and Detroit and Chattanooga, so I knew it was possible to do something that was community based. And I think within Oakland, everyone talks about like 2 degrees of separation from people, 2-3 degrees, you can really get to anyone in the city. And so I knew that if we actually built a club that was about a community, that you would get a community that would come around it. And so that was, again, the very like novice idea when I started out. And then you see the success moving forward. I hope that we can be an example for other folks about how you can build a club from scratch, but then overnight really get that success because you actually bring people into the conversation in a meaningful way.
No, that's what it's all about. And, you had experience coaching at, in Holland and, Dynamo Zagreb, even in OKC, Rio OKC at the time. Now you take it back to Oakland. I want to ask you this, from a talent perspective, what's the difference, seeing it from European level, seeing it from the States? What are we missing in terms of talent, or do we already have it and it's about like creating those communities, like you said?
Well, I mean, like just genetically speaking, the genetics of an 8-year-old here versus in Croatia, they're no different. So I think you're really looking at the absence of culture. When you talk about a young kid and mental ignition, which is such an important thing for someone to actually say, hey, I see that, I'm going to go do that. You just don't have kids that can really see a pathway for them. I think that, the biggest thing at the soccer level is just speed of decision making. So you've got kids that are technically good, but can you make a decision when it's, pressure and stress, and can you really cope with the demands of playing in a very challenging environment? So I think it's not about the capacity of American players or local players, is that they don't get exposed to the realities of just how hard it is. In Dinamo Zagreb, as an example, from the U12 to the U13 level, like 50% of the kids get dropped. So that means that by the time you're like 17, 18, you've gone through so many filtering processes where you've got like outside competition coming in. There's kids on trial every week. It's just really a sink or swim environment. And so when you couple that with all the success you can have, financially, if you do well, and then just the history that people have where you can be like at the bakery and there's a 70-year-old woman sitting there and she's got an opinion on soccer, or you're at the bus stop and your teacher's got like everyone's kind of got it. You just get all these different inputs.
You're on mute, my guy.
That helps you kind of form a better understanding of what's possible. A player can set a better North Star for themselves.
No, I love how you said North Star. And I think when it comes to roadmaps, you see Dynamo Zagreb, they've had countless and countless of players playing on the world stage, whether it's Real Madrid, Barcelona, all over the Premier League, definitely a feeder league to most of the Bundesliga teams. So if we can get that environment, whether it's, Oakland, I know Sacramento, we just got someone that drafted today, but if they see a roadmap of, the Jalil Anababas, the Cam Iwasas, the, Tommy Thompsons of the world, myself, being able to see that at a younger age, those North Stars, that's what it's all about, and keeping it within the community. I think that's a great point that you made. And I want to ask you, as it comes to, starting your club, you're like, all right, need 50,000 shoestring budget, get it started. Now it's like, all right, now we go to NISA. Now you guys just recently announced USL. Talk about that process. Like, what influenced the move?
Well, I think the challenge is, when you're trying to be a club that's trying to elevate your community, you really have to try to aspire to the highest platform you can get. NISA is an amazing league. It's got amazing member clubs in it. It's got a real amazing vision around what they're doing, but they're also a startup, and so the reality of NISA is that it's going to be 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, maybe longer before they can really fully grow into the vision that they have. And so, like, we had no doubt that they were headed towards a good direction. When the opportunity came for USL Championship, it just really made a lot of sense in that there was already a built-in league. There was already a lot of success stories of clubs that had gone out and reached for a higher level. And so it wasn't a criticism of NISA as much as it was just an opportunity to elevate our community through sport. When you talk about those young kids that come into our games and seeing in front of them like an actual tangible thing that they can touch and feel, we felt that having that ability to say, hey, here's a game against Sac Republic, here's a game against Las Vegas, maybe here's a really big name player that you might be able to see that you wouldn't get in NISA right away. And so it wasn't anything about NISA, it was just more so about what we felt the USL provided for us and for the community.
No, that's what it's all about. So I know your entrepreneur spirit is always thinking about what's next. What are some things that you're excited about, over the next 2 to 3, 5 years when it comes from a soccer landscape, both domestically and globally?
That's a good question. I think U.S. soccer is kind of at a weird junction where you've got a lot of young players that are now kind of like making inroads in Europe. So there's a lot more interest in like the young undiscovered talent. You've got a league that is striving for more. Even NISA, as they go forward, it's going to be more of a financial demand on ownership groups. And so I think they're still trying to figure out, like if you look into Europe, number one, number two revenue streams are media money and player transfers, right? So I think that's for U.S. soccer. They really got to figure out how to bring those types of revenues in. Otherwise, you're really looking at, can we build a stadium and earn revenues through that, right? So I think U.S. soccer has to find ways to just grow new revenue streams to support the club. I think in the next 2 to 3 years, I would hope that we would continue to see rapid growth of women's soccer. I think that's a big opportunity for our country to continue to be one of the top, sporting nations in the world for women's soccer. I think that'll be a challenge because, the rest of the world's starting to wake up to it. And I think once they get going, it's going to be hard to keep up. And I really want to see more of an example from, clubs at the top. If you look at MLS, like how can they build better pathways for youth players? You see a lot of owners that are adverse to investing $1 million a year into their youth academy. Can they actually do that? Will they actually take the risk to put more money into that space? On the commercial side, media side, like Americans are pretty talented for that type of stuff. So I don't think they're going to have any problems monetizing Twitter.
We'll find a way to make money.
They'll figure out a way to make some money. So it's really just, I think, how can they be better about youth development? How can they get younger players into the first team? How can they continue to support women's soccer and keep us where we are? And I think also just looking to find better ways to relate to the community and not make it this kind of manufactured fandom where you've got, 20% of your fans are really diehard, but the other 80% are very passive and kind of some days they come to the game, some days they don't. So I hope that they can continue to build just more meaningful relationships with folks at the local scene that can actually bring passion to the club, because that's the lifeblood. I mean, you've played, when you go to a stadium and it's packed and there's energy there and there's a real meaningful relationship with the folks there, like it gives you energy as a player, and if you don't have that, it's hard to kind of sustain yourself through some of the hard moments that you have from season to season.
Yeah. So like, talk about that. Cause like, how are you guys able to tap into like the community fan base? Obviously, you mentioned like, doing something authentic, that means a lot, but I've seen San Jose, I go to those games and I played in those games and there's not that many fans like that. So how are you guys able to get like not only true fan support, but people that were actually invested in what you guys were doing or are doing actually?
I think what we did, and it's so weird because like people always talk about it as if we have some like magic sauce for bringing community folks around it. Like I think we just went to people and said, hey, like what would you want to see from a team? And we kind of try to build a table where folks could sit at it, and it's not for us to put words in someone's mouth of why are you sitting here, but more so giving them a platform to say, hey, this is what I want to see, this is what I believe in. And I think once we identified kind of key stakeholders within the community, it was more so, you're not going to go and get 20,000 people to get around your idea the first day. Like that's just impossible. But you can get 20 people, and you can find 20 people who can bring 100 people, and you give those 20 people a real meaningful, genuine conversation. I think they'll actually become your champions. And so I think we found that with Roots, where we actually had people that we got early into the process that then became our champions. And as they kind of gave their stamp of approval on what we were doing, it enabled us to kind of get into the kind of 1 degree, 2 degree, 3 degrees of separation, and that allowed us to get a bit of a critical mass. And then eventually we had to go from being an idea to actually playing a game, right? And so once we actually provided something real, where we have a league and we had players and we actually had a beyond just the brand, like it was actually a club, I think that allowed us to get the community that we got.
No, that's amazing. So I'm going to try to shift gears a little bit. So say you're starting over, no Oakland Roots, no anything. You investing in a team in Europe, you investing in NISA, you investing in USL, you trying to get an MLS squad, what you doing?
And before you say that, we'll touch on this a little bit more when we get into our topics, but yeah, go ahead and answer this question though.
Yeah, let me just plug my thing in here. So I think, when people talk about investing in U.S. soccer, you'll hear a lot of people say, hey, it's a stupid thing to invest in U.S. soccer. You can go buy a club in Europe for the same money you would spend there. I think it's dumb to invest in U.S. soccer if you're not investing in European soccer. So I think it's really finding ways to build those pathways forward. I would say if I had one thing to put money into, it'd probably be European soccer. I mean, that's where there's an actual return. If you do well, you can have a pretty decent return. But I think the cool thing about American soccer is that you can create something from scratch. And so you can actually have a club where you don't have to be kind of limited by the history. If you go to Europe, it's a very entrenched way of thinking, way of living, way of viewing the world. People are maybe more adverse to change, maybe more adverse to kind of trying to do things differently. So I think what's unique about America is that you can actually go with a blank canvas and just create something, and I think you've seen that with some of the teams like Sac Republic, right? 10 years ago, Sac Republic was an idea. Maybe it wasn't even an idea by that point. Now you got people that live and die for that club, and I think that's a cool thing that you can do where you don't have to be beholden to what was done before. You can kind of pave a new pathway forward. So I would say I would find a way to invest in U.S. soccer and European soccer and connect those two together.
I like that. So with that, talk about your new role as technical director for Oakland Soccer Club. Am I getting that right?
Yeah, Oakland Soccer Club. So it's a 40-year-old nonprofit in Oakland. They've served countless thousands of kids and families over that period of time. I had a relationship with Edward Stephen, who's the co-president now. And if you think back to Roots, actually, we played our first game as Oakland Leopards in the U.S. Open Cup in San Leandro. Actually, we played down at Burrell. And so Ed was a good friend of mine. And yeah, man, they got with the Pirates logo there out there. We played against the Oakland Stompers. We actually had like maybe close to 400 people came out to this Open Cup game. And that was like our first, like, wow, we could really get some people to show up. And so they've been a club that's, when you think about pay to play and you think about all the challenges that brings for people, every imaginable problem you could think of, they've got. But they've got a really good mission. They have a really good vision for what they want to do. And they've got just amazing people involved, real community people. And so as Edward became the co-president of that club, he actually called me and said, "Hey, I just got in as the president." I was still with Roots at the time, and I kind of started working as a free advisor for them, just kind of helping them think through, what do you want to do, why, what does this require of you as an organization. And so as kind of time went on, it just made more sense to get more involved. I'm a volunteer, so I'm not earning any money for it. It's just purely a passion thing for me. When you see people really trying to do right by kids in our community, you have to help. There's just no other way around it. So they've got a lot of work to do, but I really believe that they can be something special, and then hopefully people will start to track what they're doing, because it's real. Like, these are real people doing it for the right reasons. It's a nonprofit. They're trying to help kids in Oakland, and I couldn't say no to that.
Perfect. Well, definitely let me know. I'm always trying to do some stuff, give back. Oakland's home for me as well. Sacramento still got the first spot, but Oakland comes in at number 2. But with that being said, you got any questions before we move on into like the deeper topics?
No, actually, I think it's a good segue. We can just go ahead and jump into the topic. We'll come back to Two Truths and a Cap. But we were talking about grassroots soccer, and talking about the pyramid in U.S. soccer as a whole. We're only as strong as our pyramid, right? And the biggest part of that pyramid is at the bottom. And I saw a tweet from you the other day. I think you retweeted something with the Midwest Premier League or something like that, and mentioning like how this is how you grow grassroots soccer, by having these regionalized leagues and really building from there. So if you were charged with growing grassroots soccer in America, how would you do it?
Oof. I mean, it's tough. Like, the way that they have the voting system set up with the federation, it's really hard. I think to you would have to really change the bylaws of U.S. soccer and the way it's structured to actually grow it. I really believe that you got to find ways to tap into local clubs. You have to find ways to get more kids into the game. I think right now financial barriers are the biggest thing that's keeping the game from growing, especially if you think about it in the Black community, or the Black and brown community, if you will. So finding out how do you get around funding of soccer. Like, I believe, and this may not be accurate, but I believe that a fully funded U.S. Development Academy, which is now MLS Next, it's like $1 million a year to do that, like at a fully funded level, right? So if you're telling me that you got to go as a U13 player, fly to Seattle to go play a game, I just don't think that that's realistic, right? So you got to find ways to keep things more localized, more regionalized, still get kids meaningful games, because that's a huge part of development. Like, you have to find ways for young players to get exposed to a high level, because that's the only way you grow. Pressure, not stress, but you have to give young kids pressure if you're talking about at the top level. But I think broadening the pool, right? If you look into school settings, and in Oakland as an example, physical education budgets have really been cut a lot, right? So how can local youth soccer clubs work with schools to provide soccer programming, so you get more kids playing? If more kids are playing, then eventually, as the cream rises to the top, I think because you have a broader pool, you'll end up with more kids reaching a higher level. And so it's really figuring out, how do you get around the financial barriers of access, and then how do you get clubs working together? Because youth clubs don't have a first team, right? You're sending kids to college, and so there's not really like a clear pecking order of like who is who, and so everyone's kind of like with this nuclear arms race, trying to compete against each other, trying to poach players. So you got to get over the financial stuff, but then you got to get clubs that are actually working in the same direction, and that's hard. That's a really hard thing to do, because it's a pay to play business, and so the more kids you have, the more money you can make. The bigger you can get, and it doesn't encourage good behavior from clubs. And so I think that's, and then the federation, like, how do they actually create a mandate that clubs have to abide by, where it's not just the wild, wild west and you can do whatever you want to do, right? And so I think better guidance from the top down, but then better cooperation from the bottom up, and then removing those financial barriers of access. I know that's a lot to do, so, but I think those are things that if you start chipping away at them, that you can have success in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years time.
No, I mean, you hit the nail on the head when it comes to the clubs, trying to raise prices. Like right now, especially with everything going on unfortunately with COVID-19, I've been hearing clubs at the local level out here, like keeping the price the same, and there's no games to be played. They're doing Zoom practices, so you're not even offering the same value, but you're still keeping the price the same, and it's really sad to see. So if we can like figure out ways to stop that, full stop, definitely that needs to happen ASAP.
It's tough though, because like pay to play, everyone kind of talks about pay to play, and in other parts of the world it's free, but they're also they own the rights to the player, and they're going to sell them and they're going to make money back. So it's like someone's paying for it, So and even like in Holland or in other countries, if you go to the amateur levels, the kids pay a fee to play. So there is pay to play. They have a more government makes more investments into sports and sporting facilities. So you have a lot of municipally owned sports facilities at the grassroots level where they can therefore charge less to the kid to pay. But like Holland, like third tier, the kids in the academies there are paying a fee. They're not paying as much, right? And so I think you got to figure out like, how do you get healthcare invested in soccer? Like, how do you get someone saying, hey, if this kid's got asthma and he's 9 years old, over the next 10 years, he's going to have this many asthmatic episodes, going to lead him to go to the emergency room. It's going to cost money. If we can now invest dollars into a local sports league for him, soccer, football, whatever that is, and this kid's participating, now he's going to have a better health outcome, going to spend less time in the emergency room. It's going to save dollars for the system, right? So getting folks to really view investing, farther up the stream with kids and providing them kind of that easier access. If you can get around health investment, I think that's one piece. If you look at law enforcement, right, and you think about wanting to find new methods of community policing and defunding the police or maybe refunding or funding new methods of keeping communities safe, I think athletics can play a really big role in that. I think sports for me was a way to kind of focus a lot of things from my life that I wish were different or better and find an avenue where I could go out and express myself and gain self-esteem and build kind of an understanding of how to be a teammate, how to strive for something. So I think if you can look at law enforcement and finding ways to maybe not take money from police, but find the police to go invest in sports leagues or to defund and put those monies into community settings, I think is a big thing, right? That I hope in 2020 when we can see that occur. If you just look at healthcare dollars and law enforcement dollars right there, you've got a lot, right, that you can actually tap into. And I don't know, like Sheriff's FC, right? Like you've seen in Hayward, they've got an MLS Next Academy and it's free for the kids. And that's the Sheriff's Department there making an investment in community policing through providing a sports activity for free. And so I think those are ways that, otherwise it's pay to play is really the only model you have is fee-based membership. And then that becomes exclusive to people who have the money, and the folks that don't have it, they just kind of fall by the wayside, right? Because they can't afford the ticket price.
Hey, you have time? Can you help me with my foundation?
What's that?
Can you help me with my foundation?
For sure, man.
You was giving some serious gems right there, man.
Well, no, I mean, so my master's was in public administration. I did public policy, and I worked for 4 or 5 years with trying to build exercise referral schemes in the U.S. And if you go to countries with socialized healthcare, where the primary care physician is actually able to speak to a local gym because they're kind of all paid for by the government, you can get a doctor that's actually saying like if you go to Kaiser, right, they ask you, hey, how many minutes a week do you exercise? Right. And so that was actually a part of this program called Exercise is Medicine, where you would have in an ideal setting, and they have this in other parts of the world, your doctor could actually take a kid and say, hey, I'm going to prescribe you a referral to go play in the soccer league. And then they could actually call up the local club and say, hey, we got this kid, he's a childhood diabetes or something like that, or he has some chronic health issue, and we want to put him into a sports league. And so I think that's a big one, man. If you ever want to chat about your foundation and trying to grow it, I'm all ears.
I know your line, so I'm gonna hit you up.
For sure, man. For sure.
Right.
Yeah, and that's a good, I guess, kind of segue. We started with grassroots level. We want to scale that down even more. If we were to build another team from scratch, what steps would you take? What things would you do different? What things would you invest more time and effort in? How would you do that?
I'd probably find better investors. But yeah, I mean, I think just continuing to do the same stuff, honestly. Like, I think that finding ways to build meaningful relationships with people locally, it's more and more clubs are showing it, like not just us. If you look at Sac Republic, even, and the success they had overnight, right? I think it's because they had a real vision around, let's make this a community asset. And so I would just continue to do more of the same. I think that you've got a lot of people with money in soccer. Like, that's truth. If you look at the ownership groups of all these different teams, they've got no shortage of capital. But I think because they're people of wealth, and maybe it's been a while since they've had to think about, how am I paying my rent? How am I living? How am I surviving? They kind of lose that connection to just like everyday people in everyday life. And so for that reason, they're not really able to, they can intellectually understand community-based soccer, but they don't live it because it's foreign to them, and maybe not a fault of their own. Like, they've been in a different world and living by different standards. But I would say just keep doing the same thing is what my plan is just double down on what you're about, and then, out-compete the competition.
For sure, that's all you can do. Out-compete the competition. So that's something you're kind of planning to do with Oakland Soccer Club, kind of help build them up. I mean, they're a nonprofit, right? So I don't think there may not be any plans of like going pro or anything like that. I don't know if you could speak to any of that, but is that kind of what your plan is as a technical director there?
I think right now is just trying to help them stabilize where they're at. They've got a really rich history. They're real people in the community. So I think that there's truth in what they say. When they want to do something, they mean it. What happens beyond the next couple of years, I don't know. There's definitely no shortage of opportunities at the higher levels, and that's growing every day. So I wouldn't take any options off the table in terms of what they can be, but that's really just getting better direction from their board of directors of, what do you want to do? Why? What does this mean? Laying out options for them of what's possible and what it takes. I definitely don't plan on stopping to be involved in soccer locally. Oakland's my home. My family's been here for 40 years. We'll be here for another 400 years. And so I'll have to answer that question maybe 6 months from now. They've got some fires they got to put out, just kind of helping to deal with COVID. It's been really, really hard for them. Pay-to-play sports has really made it hard for them to survive. And so we're just trying to figure out how to get them stable. Once they're stable, I think that they're a sleeping giant. They've been around for so long. There's so many families in Oakland that have a connection point to them. I think that the sky's the limit for them. So don't quote me on it just yet, but I think it's a club that's going to be a big club in this country in the future, for sure.
No, I love it. So you already said 6 months from now we're doing part 2. Give them the update.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I know we got a lot of updates from after 6 months.
For sure.
Yeah. So one thing that we hear a lot, especially on the lower leagues, and as I guess a selling point for some of these teams is path to pro, right? So path from the youth ranks up through, the academy, club team, stuff like that, and providing a path for them to go pro, outside of college or maybe after college or something like that. One league that's taking this model to heart, especially in this country, is La Liga. So the Spanish soccer league, La Liga, has launched the La Liga Next in the U.S. It's a U.S.-based showcase program for American youth soccer players. This program aims to recruit the players ages 14 to 18 to join academies operated by La Liga clubs. So La Liga North America is running this program, and they're partnering with the global sports agency ISL. So they're providing these scouting events that are currently scheduled to take place this June and July in 4 Texas cities. So San Antonio, Houston, Dallas, and Austin. And each session will last 2 days and cost $150 for registration. They'll consist of exhibition games, skills tests, and physical assessments, and all the sessions will be recorded. So about 60 players from these sessions will be selected to travel to Spain for 10 days to compete in showcases and training camps hosted by La Liga Sports Academies, La Liga Youth Academies, And the outstanding performers will be offered contracts to play for those youth clubs. So with European leagues moving in to recruit talent in the U.S. at younger ages, how does this affect the homegrown and MLS academies that are currently, working to do the same things?
They're going to have competition for sure, which is a good thing. They've kind of been on the pedestal, maybe needing a little kick in the butt to actually start kicking into high gear and doing things the right way. So I think it's awesome. That's a big thing right now, where if you were to go, I guess German clubs maybe have really bought in the most. But if you were to go to Borussia Dortmund and say, hey, we want to make an academy in the Bay Area, they'll probably listen to you a lot differently now than if you went to them 10 years and said the same thing. So I think it's awesome to see clubs from abroad and leagues from abroad look in the U.S. for players. I think it's going to make it hard for MLS, right? Because, and Amobi, this better than anybody. What they do is they sign you. They give you like a multi-year deal if you're a young kid. They assign an artificial number to you for your value. And now they're going to go send some, hey, you want to buy this 18-year-old? It costs you $300,000. And you're like, well, why would I do that? I can go get a kid from my local area for a fraction of that. So, I think if you're a 16-year-old kid and you're striving for the highest level, like, don't go play in MLS. Go try to be in Europe, and if you don't make it, come back, and you can still try to reach a high level domestically. And it's not right for every kid. Some kids aren't, maybe psychologically, they're not ready to go to a foreign country. Maybe from a social perspective, they need to be closer to family. Like, it's not right for every kid to go to Europe right away. But if you're really striving for a high level, you got to be with the best. And so I think seeing this La Liga Next initiative is a big sign, right? That clubs from abroad and leagues from abroad want to invest in the U.S. marketplace. And so I think it's awesome. And I hope that it pushes U.S.-based clubs, USL, NISA, MLS, to really look at the U.S. Youth investment and say, hey, this is actually something that we have to do. It's not like, do we want to do this? It's like, we got to do this if we want to stay viable as a business. So I hope more of the same. I hope you see Bundesliga. I hope you see the Premier League doing it. We need that in this country, because we haven't had, I think, the right long-term view of player development here. And all that happens is the kids, they suffer the consequences because they don't have the right resources in their environment, because the owner doesn't want to put the money in. And the owner doesn't want to put the money in because he doesn't see a return. And I think that maybe shows up why you don't have fan bases that really care, because you don't do anything at the community level, which includes youth investment. If you have a 15-year-old in your club, even if he doesn't make it to the first team, if he's been in your academy and he's got a positive relationship with the club, that's a fan for life, and you're getting his whole lifespan where he's now following your club, investing, his time and dollars, buying a shirt. So yeah, that's awesome to hear. I hadn't followed the La Liga Next thing, but that's exciting to hear about that.
Yeah, I completely agree. Bundesliga, La Liga, Premier League, Liga MX, any league, come to the States. It's going to force MLS, it's going to force USL, it's going to force NISA, and all these other clubs to like really take an invested approach on how they develop and provide value for these young players. I know FC Dallas is still salty. Weston McKennie got away for free. Who else? Chris Richards got away for free. So, they really changed up their model. And, no disrespect to FC Dallas, because they're one of the forward-thinking, academies, MLS academies. They do it the right way. But now Brian Reynolds, they're going to be able to sell him for, upwards of $8 to $10 million. And that doesn't happen if those two instances before, never took place. So I think it's really important. We don't see U.S. going to these other markets and kind of following that similar approach where, Bayern Munich will set up a location here. But hopefully by them doing it here, we'll turn around and make sure, we harness our talent. And if we're going to sell them off, at least get funds back to hopefully create the next line of talent in the pipeline.
Yeah, it's weird, man, because the U.S. is like capitalist system, but then in sports, it's like super socialized. You're like, oh, we got a territory, you can't come within our radius. You kind of have this like false scarcity, which I think is the way that they drive valuation up. And so I think if you're looking at La Liga Next and they're saying, yeah, like we want to go be in the New York market. We don't give a shit about Red Bulls and New York City FC. There's kids there. We're gonna go operate there.
Yeah.
There's so many clubs. I mean, if you think about all the professional clubs and then you look at all the amateur clubs, I mean, the pro clubs maybe represent less than 5% of the total U.S. soccer player pool, maybe even less, right? So if I'm a club from abroad and I'm saying I want to go invest in American soccer, like I'm not calling the New York Red Bulls. I'm calling, some club in New York that's not the New York Red Bulls, and I'm going to try to grow that way, right? So I think it's really cool to see it. I hope that the competition will make them better, to make the MLS guys better at the end of the day. So yeah, it's really cool. I hadn't heard about that, so I'll have to look more into. You said it's called La Liga Next.
Yeah, La Liga Next. I'll send you the link.
Okay.
Where I saw it. I think Dallas did get some money from McKinney, like retroactively. I think they got it from Juventus.
Oh, from Juventus, but not from Schalke.
Yeah. No.
Oh, see, they still missing out a little bit. They're supposed to get a sell-on percentage of what Schalke got,
Yeah, I think Juventus kicked them a little something.
Okay.
Like, good looking out. We're about to go grab another one from me.
Yeah.
Starting a business relationship there.
Let's keep this relationship going,
Right.
Yeah, well, we had it already, all the kids going into Mexico, right? I'm sure, Amobi, you grew up with a bunch of guys that wound up going into Mexico, and so I think it's already, it's such a big country. There's so many kids playing, and that's why I go back to saying, like, the 8-year-old kid in Texas is no different than the 8-year-old kid in Belgium. They just have different environments, and so if you can create those environments, it's not like, only in San Antonio can we develop kids, and in El Paso you can't. You can go develop them wherever. You just got to bring resources and then provide a pathway, and biology and human spirit and all that stuff. Evolution kind of takes care of the rest, right? If you put something in front of somebody, it'll get done, right? People will achieve things, but you got to have something in front of you to strive for something. And I just don't think there's been enough real pathways created for players. And I think if they can create more, America, it's just impossible for us to not become a giant in the world. There's too many of us, there's too many kids playing. So knock on wood, but hopefully in our lifetime, we can see a World Cup lifted for the US. I hope so.
True. Yeah. Hopefully.
We got a chance with this generation.
I don't know about that yet. I don't know about that one yet.
Well, it's
hard,
right?
we got a shot to go far.
It's just tough because that's the challenge. Like Weston McKennie and Christian Pulisic and all these guys are good players, but can they be good players for 10 years? Can they play at that level for every year? Can they deal with injuries? At the highest levels, it's not. I mean, everyone's got talent, but who can keep the motivation? Who can play injured? Who can really kind of be like the walking wounded and still performing at a high level?
Yeah.
So we got a lot of young guys that are doing well, but can they keep that level, and then can they reach even a higher level? So I think it'll happen. It's tough, man. The highest levels, it's hard. Even the USL level, you see how much that's jumped in the last couple of years. So it's hard to compete.
I would say with this golden generation, consistently, we should expect to make the quarterfinals of the World Cup. I could maybe make a semifinals, but I still don't think we're there yet. You got France, Portugal leading the way. You never know with the other Belgium. But it's we'll see. It's been a crazy couple of years because we haven't really got to see them, but we'll see. It's gonna be interesting.
All right, for sure. All right, so let's jump into a couple of games. We like to play games around here. First one, 2 truths and a cap. So, Benno, we want you to tell us 3 facts about yourself. 2 of them will be true. 1 of them will be a lie. Amobi and I have to guess. I haven't been keeping tally, but I think I may be up.
Really? You say he
by at least 1 point.
How's that work out?
I ain't be keeping track, but I think just from my recollection, I think we played this like 3 times. I think I've won more than I've gotten it right more than you.
All right, so we go 2-1. Keep track now. 2-1.
All right, let me see here. So 2 truths and a lie. All right, well, first one, I'm a massive fan of Chelsea. Going back to the Fox Soccer Channel, Been supporting Chelsea my whole life. I think they're hands down the biggest club in the world. So no offense to other people that don't like Chelsea, but that's my team. The second one is I'm married to a Brazilian woman. So my wife is from Sao Paulo. My commitment to U.S. soccer is so deep that I want to, bring some new genes into our player pool. So my wife is Brazilian. And the third one would be that I'm like deathly afraid of flying, which has made life interesting, traveling around the world for soccer all these years. So yeah, that would be the three I guess I'd throw out there for you.
Hey, one of them was a lie, right?
Yep. One of them's a lie.
Ooh, he was telling them like really enthusiastically. I was like, wait, does he know the rules of the game? Okay.
I had to make it hard for you,
Yeah, you said your wife's name before the show.
Well, as an Arsenal fan, I'm gonna say the Chelsea one is a lie.
Really?
I'm gonna just lay it at that. Like,
Chelsea's
a lot.
Benno, he's traveled the world, so I could definitely see him married to a foreigner. Afraid of flying? That's tough. You went overseas. You lived overseas. Yeah, you're afraid of flying. That's the lie.
I'm a huge United fan, so I hate Chelsea. My brother's a big Chelsea fan, so I had to say that. That way he can have a joke about this later on. I'm a big fan of United.
Oh, okay, respect. Top of the table right now. I don't know how that's happening.
I kind of picked up like the irony in it. I'm like, all right, this Chelsea thing is probably ironic, so I'm gonna go with Chelsea.
Dang, so you're
no disrespect to Arsenal though. No disrespect. You guys are going through a tough one, but man, there's a club that needs new ownership, right?
Labor of love, being an Arsenal supporter, for sure. And yeah, we definitely need new ownership.
You're not rocking with him?
But Kroenke?
Nah, just playing.
Stingy Silent Sand? No. All right, let's jump into another game that we love to play here. It's called No Card, Yellow Card, Red Card. So this is a rapid fire game that we play where I'll read off some headlines, some news headlines, and we will rate those headlines or rate the topic based on the soccer card system. So no card is I agree with it or I'm cool with it. Yellow card is I can go either way. And red card is I disagree, I'm not cool with it. And so, when you give your card rating, also kind of give a reason why you gave your card rating as well. So let's jump right into it. No card, yellow card, red card. Christian Pulisic's GQ photo shoot.
Damn, that's a red for sure.
Oh, I'm gonna go yellow card just because I read the article. It was a good article, and then I watched the video of like 10 things you can't live without. He's definitely getting fried in the group chat with his boys. He mentioned he'd be on a house party and stuff. I know like that his young group of players, they probably frying him in that, So I'm going yellow card. I ain't gonna hate on him. GQ probably was like, we need you to pose like this. It wasn't his decision.
Benno, you said red card?
Yeah, I gotta give a red, man. Whoever's handling him's gotta get a reprimand on that one. Like, they shouldn't have set him up like that.
So, Christian, your response got to be, "Hey, I got paid for it." That's all you got to.
True. That's true.
Yeah. Like, but you talking about me though, right? So, hey, that's pub. All right, next one. No card, yellow card, red card. Don Garber's letter to MLS fans.
Man,
I think it just came out today. I don't know if I had a chance to read it.
Are they talking about the fan groups and stuff? Walk me through. Catch that letter.
Let me
I'm up, I think you put that one on.
Yeah, let me pull it up real quick. So essentially, Don Garber had like a whole like public announcement about like what's been going on because of the CBA disagreement between MLSPA and MLS.
Mm-hmm.
So he like wrote a message to the fans. So give me a second, I'm gonna pull it up. Here we go. Commissioner letter to the fans. So I'm gonna read it real quick. So forgive me. Dear MLS fans, on behalf of everyone at Major League Soccer and our clubs, I hope that despite the challenges we all continue to face in 2021, you and your families are having a happy, safe, and healthy start to the year. He did not write this, by the way. Shout out to his ghostwriter. With the victory by Columbus, all right, blah, 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 blah. Today we turn the page and look ahead to the 2021 season, blah, 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 blah. Through all the excitement that comes with the launch of a new soccer season, the COVID-19 pandemic is still very much with us and brings a great deal of uncertainty. I know fans miss being able to attend matches last season, and it is certain that there will be significant limitations on attendance this year. Unlike other leagues here and abroad, we are hit harder financially when our fans can't attend games. Coming out of the pandemic in the strongest possible position will continue to require everyone in MLS to work together, aka MLS take a pay cut. Last year forced us to make all tough decisions and endure new and difficult challenges. We were forced to reduce our staff at the league and club level, as well as reducing salaries. We made significant budget cuts to allow us to fund key initiatives like the MLS's back tournament and to continue to pay our players 95% of their salaries. Our players faced new challenges, as well as with a revised schedule that had them away from their families for weeks on end and during new pandemic-related health and safety protocols. Blah, 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 blah. We met with MLS Players Association and their player representatives in early January to talk about how we can deal with the ongoing challenges with the pandemic and impact on MLS for a second year. The MLS ownership group presented a fair proposal according to the MLS ownership group, to a very difficult situation that provides the players with 100% of their salaries this year in return for a 2-year extension of the MLS collective bargaining agreement. I'm proud of the solution that our ownership group has presented. The MLS ownership group takes the risk and financial losses from the pandemic this year while protecting the long-term stability of our league by providing an opportunity to earn back some of the financial loss in the future. Blah, blah, blah. Like you, we are all eager to begin the 2021 season this coming March. We presented our proposal to the MLS 2 weeks ago and look forward to receiving a response. They haven't received a response yet. And then goes on to say, blah, blah, blah. Thank you. MLS will preserve and emerge stronger than ever, and we thank you for your support. Regards, Commissioner Don Garber.
Damn, I wouldn't even say that's a red card. That's like a expulsion from the league.
Ooh.
Game format. Because the way it works, like, so sports teams lose money, and you got rich owners that are writing off those losses, and they gain value in the club over time. So, you know, you lose $5 million a year, but you gain $50 million in value. You're netting on the balance sheet money, right, if you ever sell the team. So I think that's a front. You know, that's just a front for we're cheap. You know, I think that's so I would say that's worse than a red card, because you know, you're taking guys and their livelihood, and you're trying to leverage their talent to kind of build your league, right? Like that's the lifeblood of any league is the players. And they come out that you're gonna kind of give maybe give crumbs. You know, I think that's not. I understand that with COVID and the fans and not having fans. I mean, that's a real thing. You know, clubs are losing revenue. You know, they got payroll, they got expenses. But if you're really saying from MLS that you're about raising the game in this country and you're going to be here for 50 years or 100 years from now, then I think that's a cop out. You know, put your money where your mouth is. If you look at all the money that's being made in the market right now, you know, these guys aren't hurting for cash. That's just them being cheap.
Yeah, they knew about Moderna like 2 years ago. So, you know, I'll just play. Yeah, I'm going to give it. So from the standpoint of the soccer players, I'm giving it a red card. But from the standpoint of, you know, Don Garber and MLS owners, I'm giving it a yellow card. It's just tactics. It's business. I'm currently reading 48 Laws of Power, so I'm like kind of like, you know, all about negotiation and leverage. So I'm only going to give it a yellow card. But what I will say, and L, make sure you cut this clip, because do not, MLS players, MLSPA, do not, if you agree to anything, do not sign an extension past the 2026 World Cup. This is a tactic that they're trying to use. The MLS media rights will expand. Money is going to be coming to America and US soccer and MLS. And the players, you guys have a chance to have leverage. So if you extend that CBA, that's leverage lost. So please, whatever you do, work it out if you need to work it out, but do not extend anything past the World Cup. That should be the one, like most definitely the one thing that needs to come off the table. It needs to come off the term sheet, whatever. We're not even coming to the table unless those years. Man, I wish I was still on the Players Rep Union. I caused a lot of trouble back in the day when I was on that. Ooh, that get me started. All right, here we go. Sorry, that's my feel.
All right, man. See, you got the insight, man. So this is stuff that most people don't get to see. having you on here, you're able to kind of give us some insights on what's going on in the background and what they should and shouldn't do. So that's definitely a good look. Appreciate it. Next one, no card, yellow card, red card. The Czech FA claims Ronaldo needs another 62 goals to break the real goal record. I haven't heard this one. Can you tell us a little bit about this, Amobi?
Yeah, so the Czech Federation, because the record holder is I forget his last name, but Joseph, what's his name, Proctor. Let me look it up real quick. I should have just put it in the show notes. FA. But basically, Ronaldo just beat this goal scoring record. But according to the Czech FA, am I pronouncing it right?
Yeah, Czech.
Yeah, so Joseph Bican, famous Czech player, played for a number of different teams. His goal tally is 821. Apparently, it was 759 a week ago. But once Cristiano beat it, the Czech FA came out and said, no, it's actually 821. So Cristiano Ronaldo would need 62 more goals to beat their man.
They threw in all the friendlies to go with it.
Yeah, man, I would give that a no card. I don't even know how to figure out what that would. I mean, like it could be all made up, right? Like,
yeah.
Pelé just had that thing, didn't he? Where he was talking about he was
Pelé
not
finds new
acknowledged
goals.
past.
Yeah, Pelé finds new goals every.
Pelé will come out of retirement, dude. He'll be 90 years old, come out of retirement just to score a penalty for some local club, just to get back on top. Yeah, man, I would say no card. It's so hard. You start counting goals. You know, like, do preseason games count? How do you do that? So you're saying he's got 62 more to go. Ronaldo does before he would pass.
Yeah, according to the Czech FA.
And this guy that has the record's not playing anymore.
Yeah, he was like in the 60s, like 60s.
Okay. I'll give it a no card. Ronaldo will probably stick around until he beats that record regardless. So
yeah, Ronaldo's gonna make like a whole little documentary about it. Like, I broke a record, they didn't want me to beat it, so I stayed, and he still has another 40 goals when he comes to MLS too. So he should be fine. I'll give it a yellow card just because like last week we wasn't even talking about this, and then now these goals came out of nowhere. So
you seen that guy playing in Japan? He's like 53.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
that's definitely Ronaldo's gonna do that.
Ronaldo for sure, for sure.
Oh,
all right, last one. No card, yellow card, red card. So the Right to Dream Academy gets a $40 million investment.
No, $140 million. My bad.
My bad. I read that wrong. $140 million investment. Tell us a little about this one.
Oh, damn, this is good. I got to remember that. So, Man Capital invests $100 million in football partnership with Right to Dream Academy. So, essentially, the chairman wants to kind of take this Right to Dream Academy model. And for those that don't know, Right to Dream Academy, it was started by an English gentleman. It's basically like a program in Ghana that gives young Ghanaian kids opportunities to develop their skills, not only soccer skills but life skills, and then sends them to different opportunities around the world. So there's been a number of Right to Dream Academy players that have gone on to college in the States and then gone on to play in MLS. There's been a number of Right to Dream Academy players that have gone on to play in like feeder leagues in like Sweden, Norway, Denmark, and then gone on to play at higher levels. So they're like the example model that a lot of people use when it comes to building these pathways. So this Egyptian billionaire invests up to $140 million to kind of follow this model and bring it to Egypt in a football partnership. So Benno definitely wanted to include this, because of some of the stuff that you're doing. I feel like this is not similar, but similar in a way, and is recent news. So for me, I give it tough. I want to give it a yellow card because I'm still skeptical seeing how they're going to do it. But no card because whenever you can invest in the talent, I'm excited about that.
Yeah, I would give it a no card. I know Tom. I spoke to him a couple weeks ago actually, and he was talking about
name drop
that. So they're really excited. Yeah. I know they're really excited about it. And what a success story. I mean, you look there, I think in the last 5 years with Nordstrand, they've transferred like $60 million worth of players. A lot of those kids obviously coming from the academy in Ghana. And so to see that right to dream model and trying to bring that, I think they're putting it in Egypt, right? And they're doing some other places. That's awesome. That's definitely a no card for me.
No, respect. Yeah, it's just the level, like when you invest and you create impact. Like he's helped over thousands of kids, you know, not only from a soccer perspective, but a life perspective. I play with a couple players that, you know, went to the Right to Dream Academy. All great kids, Joseph Yarrow, Emmanuel, Francis, you know, those guys. So when you provide impact, then, you know, opportunities come in, you know, for your friend that you name dropped, you know, Tom, he's done a great thing. So, yeah, I love it.
Yeah. And it's the hard one too, because you see the opposite, where a lot of people for a long time have gone and taken players out of Africa and like taken them into Italy, France. I guess those are the two biggest places where, you know, they'll put 20 kids in a house, they'll put them on trial, they don't make it, the kid winds up homeless on the streets of Milan or Rome or France. And you know, you see a lot of people doing it for the wrong reasons. Tom's a guy I don't know that well, but I've gotten to know him. My two best friends are friends with him, and so you know, learning about what they've done. And he was there, like a long time before Nordstrand was even bought. They had the academy there, and so to see someone do it for the right reasons, and then to have success, and then now that success is being replicated. I mean, that's the dream, right? That people can actually take kind of idea diffusion and lean from, you know, from successful models, and to do that, that's what you want to see, right? So props to him for, it's a lot of money.
Yeah,
it's a lot of money to put into the academy, right?
So I need to get started. See, Benno, I got to talk to you, man. I'm trying to get something like that out here.
Let's do it, man. Oakland's ready.
Respect. Okay.
Sure. So that's it for no card, yellow card, red card for this week. Moby, you want to wrap it up?
Yeah, Benno, thank you so much. Where can people find you? I know you're a great follower on Twitter. I always tap into what you're saying. I never know what to expect, but where can people find you? Where can people tap in with you?
Yeah, so I'm on Twitter, Facebook. I'm not really big on social. I hadn't really been big on social media in the past, but kind of getting more, I guess, with the times. If you want to come find me, I'm out in Oakland. You know, if anyone's in the neighborhood, they want to go figure out how to grow soccer here, you know, hit me up. Just send me a message on Facebook or Twitter, and I'm usually pretty responsive. So.
Nah, he's not lying. And last time I was in Oakland, I just told him I knew Benno. Everything was set up for me. I was good. I was good. My whole trip was
red carpet.
The red carpet for me. So you in Oakland, you in the 510 area, just mentioned, name drop Benno, and you good, I swear.
Good in these streets.
Yeah, you're good in the street. But thank you so much for taking the time. That's our show for this week. Subscribe, rate, and review. It helps us get discovered. Follow us on the socials at 2Cents FC. Check out our merch at 2centsports.shop. It helps support the show. As you can see, me and Elle rocking the hat. The hats right here. You see them? Get your hats. Tweet us your comments on the show and any topic you want me or Elle to discuss. Once again, 2Cents FC, the only show that's giving you unfiltered thoughts and opinions.
Peace out.